badly reviewed stuff.
We were talking. It's really funny because after our last video did pretty well for the channel, I was like, we're probably stuck talking about this stuff for the rest of our lives.
Probably.
Because we're going to talk about Eternals again. There's got to be an update on it. So last time we talked about this, I think the movie was sitting at a 75 on the tomato meter. The next day, I sent you a text, right?
And it poo-pooed.
And it
in its big boy pants.
Yeah, so it went from a 75, I think, down to a 64.
Yes.
Way too many messages in here. I want to say that's correct, is that it went from a 65 to around like a 64. Well, this is what it's at today. A
59.
59. It is now officially rotten.
Yes.
That's
a rotten tomato with a worm in it.
140 reviews
from
critics. The people
the shills, the paid spokespersons of Disney.
The people who constantly want to make sure they get back to the next Disney press event.
Yes.
When Spider-Man comes out, because I'm pretty sure that's what's next. Which, of course, Spider-Man's going to come out and everyone's going to be like, oh, it was just one fluke. But it's like, well, everybody just wants to go see Spider-Man. It doesn't have anything to do with whether it's good or not. People are going to like it because it's Spider-Man no matter what. I'm not going to go through reviews again. I mean, we did that last week.
Mm-hmm.
It's very interesting, right?
Yes, I have high hopes for this weekend for when I go to see it. This is the movie.
Yes, I was correct in my previous assumption. So yeah, I'm going to go see it. Oh shoot, if you're seeing it this weekend, I might have to.
I'm going to see it on Saturday.
I was telling Justin I'd wait till Tuesday to go see it with him, but I may have to just not do that and go
Justin.
see it. Sorry, dude. I probably have to go see it this week. I'm going to have to find like an early bird showing, though, because I am not paying like a ton of money to go see this movie. I know it's not going to be good. Yeah, 59. That's not great.
Nope. And that's exactly why I told Kayla, hey, instead of us going on a date Friday night and going to see this, let's go on a date on Saturday
morning
to go see it.
Yeah. So I thought it would be kind of interesting for us because people, to put this in perspective, right?
Mm-hmm.
This is lower than Iron Man 2, which is considered to be one of the worst films in the series.
Is that the one with the Mandarin in it?
No, that's Iron Man 3, which is also not great, but I might argue that 2 is worse than 3. Yeah,
I thought 3 was worse than 2.
And that's the thing is, like, I would say they're kind of interchangeable. Like, it's like arguing between like two types of rotten fruit.
Yeah, that's true.
This is lower than the Ed Norton Hulk movie, which is only they count it for some reason, even though it's hardly connected to the MCU and has a post-credit scene.
Barely connected.
Yeah, it has a post-credit scene with Tony Stark, and then they brought in Abomination to the MCU, and so it's like connected, but it's confusing because, like, especially early on, it felt like just sort of a nod to that, like, oh, look what we did, even though it really never played much of a major role because Ed Norton didn't end up playing the Hulk. But I wanted to pull some of these up because this is the 25 Marvel movies, so not including this one. And all of their scores, and I thought it would be interesting before we close out the show to kind of run through them and talk about them a little bit. So I apologize. Okay. The show is going to run a little bit longer, but I feel the need for us to do this because I think it's kind of interesting to see where Marvel has kind of been, and also some of the ridiculous, like, high-scoring movies in this that I personally I completely disagree with. So we'll just go in order. Says Marvel movies in order. This is just how to watch them, but that's not really important. What we're doing is we're just going through the different scores. Captain America: The First Avenger has an 80% certified fresh.
80%? Oh, I thought that said 90%. Okay, I can see 80%.
I agree with that. I think it's a good movie. It's not like the best, but it's competent and it does a really good job with the story. And again, it was one of the first ones that they ever put out, so it's kind of impressive that I think it still holds up pretty well today. I think they do a really good job of kind of showing who Captain America is in that. Like, there's a great scene where everyone's he's standing around in boot camp before he turns into Captain America, and Tommy Lee Jones pretends to throw the live grenade. And Steve Rogers like jumps on top of it and he's like, get away. Like, and he's willing to sacrifice himself for that. And that's one of those key moments of like, that's who his character is, right? Great character moment. So you pretty much agree with that, right?
Right.
Captain Marvel has a 79. That is far too high. Okay.
Dude, that should be higher. That should be at least a 99.
It should be 100 because it's so brave. Such a brave movie.
No, yeah, that's way too high. That, honestly,
everyone's favorite Mary Sue.
I would probably give that movie a 2 or a 3. I thought it was absolutely terrible.
It's pretty trash.
I think that's the worst Marvel movie ever made.
Really?
I think that's the worst Marvel movie ever made.
Okay. I don't know if I would.
Now, again, I don't remember every Marvel movie, so as we go, I may change my mind on that.
Yeah.
But so far, on this list, that's the worst one in my opinion.
And to be fair, I haven't seen Black Widow or Shang Chi yet.
I haven't seen Black Widow or Shang Chi either.
I've seen enough reviews and like long form discussions that I feel like I've seen those movies. So we may like slightly omit both of those, but we'll get to them when we get to them.
What would you rate Captain Marvel? Just give me a rating. You don't have to go into detail.
4.
A 4? I can see that.
But it is not good. And here's the thing. Maybe we're being a little bit harsh on it because it's kind of fun. But
I'm not being harsh. I'm being genuine. I thought that was a terrible movie. I mean, it's right up there with. It's not as bad as King Arthur. King Arthur was worse than Captain. King Arthur was terrible.
Yeah, Captain Marvel is a coherent story.
Yes.
That does not work because there is no character arc for the main character.
No. She's just automatically great and amazing. And then Jude Law is actually the villain in that movie, funny enough.
Yeah.
2 terrible movies.
Yeah. There's a connection.
He's the villain in them.
Okay. So
right,
then we go to first Iron Man has a 94. I'm going to say it's a little high, but I would probably give it a 90.
You give it a 90? Yeah. I was going to say like 88.
I think the ending is kind of weak, but if we're talking about sort of the relevance of the movie, like it's kind of its merits and a lot of the stuff that really works well. And then, I mean, it's very much an iconic
movie.
I could agree to like 85, 88, somewhere in that range.
90 doesn't bother me though.
Yeah. I think that there's a lot that it does really, really well. And it's also, again, this was the first movie.
Yep. And because it's the first movie and it's Disney and Avengers, it probably has a little bit higher rating, but yeah, I agree with you.
Yeah. I love the whole like I am Iron Man thing at the end. It set up a very different picture of a superhero compared to like the secret identities of everybody that came before. It did such a great job of showing you like, oh, this guy's different. Right, even if you have no idea who Tony Stark is, right? It does a great job of ending that movie on this somewhat of a cliffhanger, and of course you have the whole thing where like it sets up the Avengers Initiative because the after credit scene that became famous for all of these movies and
right,
what's his name? Nick Fury.
Fury. Oh, Fury
comes in and he's like, "Oh yeah, I'm setting up this like thing or whatever," and that was that little bit of bait to get you to go, "Oh, what's he talking about? Oh, where could this be heading? Oh," and all the speculation that has become way more popular than any of the actual movies themselves. Everyone like the theories and the end credit scene is way more popular at this point than any of the movies that are coming out, which is terrible. That doesn't make good movies.
Let's get through this list.
Iron Man 2,
72.
I think it's too high.
I would give it
6, a 60.
Yeah, I was gonna say 5.5 or 6.
Yeah,
55 or 60.
Now I haven't seen Incredible Hulk in a really long time.
I haven't seen it in a long time either. What's the score on it?
67.
Fair
enough.
6, yeah. 67. Okay. Yeah, I would say 60, 50, 5.5, 60. Thor 77.
Maybe a little high.
Yeah, I think that's a little high. I'd say 65. to 70.
If I would say like if Incredible Hulk gets dropped to like a 60, like 55, 60. And of course, these are like the tomato scores. So like once you get into the 50s, you're going into rotten status. But I wouldn't necessarily say that any of them are straight up rotten, except for maybe Captain Marvel.
Yes,
I would give it a rotten score, even if it's sitting at around. Well, no, I gave it a 4, right? So it would definitely be rotten.
Yeah.
Thor's like a 7, 6.5. Like it's not great, and I hate some of the way that it's filmed, but it's pretty funny, and I like the like. He's out of place, you know, like a fish out of water scenario where he's from this like specific type of civilization that has all of these customs, and he's like a prince essentially, and then he basically goes into like New Mexico or wherever he is, and he doesn't understand the culture. I liked that aspect of it, so I maybe I'm being a little soft on it, but it 7 at the highest.
I see 6.57.
Yeah, I think that's.
What
that's
do you think about the next one?
90's fine with me.
Yeah, I think
91.
So
91's fine.
Solid movie.
90 is great. A couple things that I've seen recently about some of the
and this movie's Marvel's The Avengers. Just so everyone knows.
Sorry. For those of you who can't see, Marvel's Avengers, the first one that came back back in 2012. Not a perfect movie, but I think there's enough. With the set pieces and a lot of the character development you get, and a lot of the stuff that I've seen even recently where people have kind of broken down like Black Widow and how she is in this versus who she kind of became, and how like they kind of made her a dumber character as time went on, which is unfortunate. She really shines in this. I mean, most of the characters do. I have a hard time pointing to anybody that doesn't really get kind of their moment. I almost would say like maybe Thor doesn't really, but at the same time, I can't remember. There are just certain things that stand out to me more than anything Thor did in that movie. But yeah, totally great. Thor: The Dark World. Speaking of old Thor, 66 is kind of high. It's
that is high
boring.
for that movie.
I would say max 50. It's watchable.
5.5 to 50 to 5.
Yeah, I'd probably move it down to a 50. 66 is that Marvel bump that all these movies get, where they're not.
I give it like a 55.
Yeah. Here's your favorite, Iron Man 3.
79. How is that movie a 79? That's like how is Captain Marvel?
Also 79, right?
Yes, like two of the worst movies.
Better than Captain Marvel, though.
Oh, yeah, it's definitely way better than Captain Marvel. I would say, oh man, I would put it right there with The Dark World, personally.
Okay, so
that's not bad. I think 60? It's that bad. Yeah, 50 to 55.
Okay, 50 to 55. That's fair. I'm fine with that. I probably wouldn't go much higher than that. One. Captain America: Winter Soldier, 90.
I think that's too low.
You really think that's too low? I would say it's kind of perfect.
I think this is the best.
Really?
Marvel's movie, yeah.
Okay, so what would not 100 though, right?
No, not 100. I'd give it like a 97, 98.
97, 98. Okay.
Yeah. Actually, I would give it a 95, but because there's other movies on this list I know that are higher than 95, that's why I said 97. But I would give it a 95.
I think you could make a solid argument for a 95. I think 90 is a very good score, especially considering where a lot of these other ones are. I think you're right. I think this is top tier.
This is one of the better ones.
Yeah.
This is in the elite class.
Yeah. As far as these movies are concerned, I think I would probably agree with you. Now, we're moving on to Guardians of the Galaxy, which is my favorite of all of the Marvel movies.
What would you rate it? It's 92.
Probably 96. Because
96.
Oh man, it's not perfect. So the one like thing that I don't care for is any sort of connection to like the Infinity Stones. Like it's fine that it's in it because that's kind of the thing that drives the story forward or whatever. And it's so minimal. And of course they had to put it in there. But the reason there's only one thing, and it's unfair because it's kind of in hindsight that I would that I'm kind of unhappy about, is that this is the movie that made all other Marvel movies exactly the same thing. And we've talked about this before, where it's like the tone and the style. A lot of the other Marvel movies, the much lesser movies, they all adopted this snarky attitude. And it's like, it works for the Guardians because of who they are. They're supposed to be this like ragtag bunch of kind of anti-heroes who decide that they, to some degree, to save their own skin, that they need to save the planet, like the universe or whatever, right? Like the and it's great. I think Chris Pratt, Rocket is great in this. Groot is great. Like, everyone does a really good job in this movie, right? Villain's a little weak, not awful, but a little weak. And it's funny because he actually shows back up in Captain Marvel, and he's even worse in that. Golly. I can't remember what the criticism was, but they butcher him in some way in that movie. Make him just I think garbage tier villain, because he just gets completely, he gets his butt handed to him without any issue.
What did you think of the second movie?
Of Guardians of Volume 2? Honest opinion? I think it's kind of trash.
I think it's kind of trash too.
And 85 is far too high.
When I say trash, I mean I think it's like 65 to 70.
I would say 65.
Yeah.
I don't think it works as well. This is when they started really hitting hard on that third act, basically just being a giant CG Dragon Ball Z fight where everything is exploding and it's like chaos and everyone's got one-liners going off everywhere. Also, I hate Baby Groot.
Yeah.
Cannot stand Baby Groot.
I hear you.
Yeah,
All
not
right,
a fan.
Age of Ultron? 76%.
I'm kind of indifferent to this movie.
Yeah, I'm kind of fine with 70.
65, 70.
Yeah.
I just don't.
It's all right, but it's not like, oh, this is great. You know what I mean?
Yeah, I didn't really care
or
for
this is good.
Yeah, the whole Black Widow Hulk thing was whatever.
Oh, that's right. That's in that movie, isn't it?
It just kind of came out of nowhere. There wasn't really anything that set that up. It's just oh yeah, they're kind of dating now. And she
right.
And which is dumb, because the thing that they should have constantly focused on with Black Widow was her relationship with Hawkeye, not intimate relationship, but their friendship. It gets heavily pushed in the first Avengers movie, and then basically never talked about again in any sort of meaningful way, and that sucks. Ant-Man is a little high.
83.
Edgar Wright was originally supposed to write and direct this movie, but he had creative differences with Marvel, which isn't surprising because he probably wanted to do some cool things that they didn't care for. 83 and Certified Fresh is too high for this movie, and I kind of have a soft spot for this movie in a weird way.
What would you rate it?
70 on their score.
That's what I was going to say, 70. What about the next one? What would you say about Civil War? It's a 90.
I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
It's not my favorite, but I think it's still
an 80.
I still think it's top tier, but I think it's lower. Do? Yeah, I think it's lower of the top tier.
I think it was kind of a bullcrap movie. I think it was such a letdown.
What?
It was such a letdown.
Nah, we'll have to disagree on that one.
I know the comics with Civil War.
Oh, okay. Well, if you're that's totally
wait.
You are bringing in a criticism that was not originally established when we first started doing this. That's
in this particular one, I felt like it was such a letdown because someone was supposed to die, right? There's supposed to be some kind of, at least that's what's alluded to, and then it's nothing. Just we all knew that wasn't going to happen, though. There's no way they would have done that. I know
that they were not.
But still,
they were
it's like
it's
one of those criticisms we talk is that they don't take any risks, and so that's why I say that. But okay, 90, you're not going to kill me, but I at least say 85.
I would potentially agree with an 80, 85.
Okay.
I think there's enough criticism, but it's funny because I think this movie does a better job of establishing Black Panther than his own movie.
That's true. That is a good point. I agree with that.
I think that the division of the heroes, not as good as someone dying, but raises the stakes enough to get emotionally invested in the split. that eventually has to be resolved when they get to Infinity War.
All right, so
and having to come back from that, because they all go into like a lot of them go into hiding after that, which is supposed to lead into Black Widow. 79 Certified Fresh is far too high for this movie.
Yeah,
it's far too high.
Maybe 55, 60.
Yeah. I won't go into like too much detail about it, since technically I haven't seen it, even though I've basically seen the entire movie.
Spider-Man: Homecoming,
92 is too high.
92%. I think that's too high.
I think Spider-Man gets a Marvel bump and a Spider-Man bump.
Mm-hmm.
And I
would say 75.
Yeah, I don't like that part of this movie relies on Iron Man being in it.
Yeah. What would you say about Black Panther? It's 90.
Oh, 96 is
96.
Dude, 96 is way.
I would give it an 80 to 85.
I would probably go lower than that.
You would?
Yeah. I don't think
what would you get?
Probably a 65.
Oh, yeah. I could see 65. That doesn't bother me.
I think it's not well written. I think that this movie was given.
We should.
That 96 is more out of fear, out of being called certain words,
than it is for the story structure
than it is for
itself.
anything that has to do with the movie. And I think it is. Most of these people did not review this movie fairly. If you want to see a pretty good review of it, Mahler has one on his site that he goes pretty in depth. I think that there are some interesting plot elements to this movie.
Yeah, that we've talked about, actually.
That we've talked about. That should be paid attention to, as far as like kind of what this story is like alluding to. But yeah, this movie was hit at a time when people were unwilling to fairly review a movie based on location, casting, and a race of the majority of the characters. I think it was unfairly reviewed. This is like, that was the beginning of that whole thing where it's like, this is like some sort of iconic movie because it's like first black superhero, and you're like, what are you like the most ridiculous articles coming out where it's like first black superhero, or oh, now finally everyone has someone to look up to because of Chadwick Boseman or whatever, and you're like, do y'all not know history of cinema?
The other black
you
superheroes?
do know that Blade existed. You do know what's his face from Man on Fire.
Yeah,
his name's slipping my mind right now. Joseph, you're supposed to help me out with this. What is his name?
Man on Fire. You're talking about?
He's like iconic. Oh my gosh.
There's Blade. I'm looking it up right now. Are you beating to me? My browser's taking forever to load.
Denzel Washington. How do we forget Denzel Washington?
Oh, Man on Fire. Yeah.
Right. Sorry,
You
not a
could have said
Marvel.
different
Not
movie than
Marvel.
I would have guessed. I don't think I've
not
seen
Marvel
Man on
property,
Fire.
of course. You've never seen Man on Fire?
I don't think I have.
Oh my Lord, that is definitely going on the list. I cannot believe you haven't seen that. I mean, like Denzel Washington, not only Man on Fire, but like he was in Training Day.
I've seen it. Yeah, Training Day,
which is also an Academy Award-winning movie, I'm pretty sure. And so
I've seen Man on Fire.
I just don't think this movie's that great. This is another one of those movies that falls into the problem of having a pretty weak villain for the most part. Who
isn't actually the villain.
Kind of isn't the villain, but is also still a murderer. So it's like,
yeah.
And then like they just have this big CGI fight at the end that isn't good. And again, I think the cultural phenomenon around this movie gave everyone a lot of rose-colored glasses. Yeah, and it's way too high. It's way too high. It's just not. It's not fair.
Strange.
Sorry, I know we talked about that a little long, but
no, you're fine.
89.
89. I would say 80.
Yeah, I would agree. That's fine.
Thor Ragnarok, 93 high.
I'd say 80. High. Yeah, I think that movie's pretty good. There's a lot of people who don't like it because it's not like, this was kind of the beginning of like the hero who is male cannot defeat the female villain.
Yep.
So there's definitely some criticisms to be had about this movie.
I thought that was a weak cop out at the end.
Yeah, but I don't know it.
You want to go on to the next one?
I would probably give it 75, 80.
75, 80.
Yeah,
I could see that.
So let me just say this: a lot of these movies, and the reason like the scores are going lower on them for me, is because there's this this thing when you see like a really great movie, right? Something that feels like a lot of time and effort and like blood, sweat, and tears. And I would say like Baby Driver, for instance, is one of those movies where it's very well crafted. That's when you get into this.
Or Guardians,
yeah.
Winter Soldier.
It feels like so much of it was well thought out, well crafted, and lovingly made. And I'm just using Baby Driver as an example because it's something outside of the Marvel universe.
And these don't feel like the people actually love them.
Yeah, like you come out of the theater going, yeah, that was pretty great. I had a fun time, and that's like about it. Oh, the end scene was cool. Can't wait to see what's next.
Right.
Ant-Man and the Wasp, way too high. 87's way too high for that
70.
movie. It's kind of boring.
Actually, I would say 60.
The only reason anyone cared about this movie is because they wanted to see what happened at the end. Because it was the movie leading up to Infinity War.
Yeah.
That's what it was. That's it. And that score's way too high.
All right, Infinity War 85.
I think it's too low.
Yeah, I thought that was too low too. I was gonna say like
it's a solid 90, if not like 95.
Solid 90.
Solid 90. I think there's an argument for 95.
Yeah, if you can give that a 95, then you have to give Winter Soldier like a 96 or 7. Because I think it's better.
I don't know.
I think it's better. Okay, so Endgame 94 too high.
Oh, far too high. I don't think it's nearly as good as...
I think it's a 70.
Yeah.
I think it's 70, 75.
Yeah, I think there's a lot that's not good about this movie.
Yeah, there's a lot that's not good. Mainly just...
Hey, the only... I might be able to bump it up to 75 because Captain Marvel's not in it very much.
That's true.
I love that. I've heard from some people that when they were in the theater and she like punches Thanos, everyone started groaning because they were worried that she was gonna like take him out or whatever, and it was just gonna be over.
Yeah.
And then of course you have that whole cringe scene where it's like the women all get together and they're like, "We'll handle this," and you're like,
"Yeah," and that's also in Infinity War too.
Yeah, but we've talked about this before. It's not the same. It's not this like. We're pausing everything in the movie to make a statement about something that has nothing to do with anything that's happening right now. Yeah.
Again,
so stupid. It's so stupid.
What do you think about Far From Home?
90's too high.
Yeah.
I don't really care. I don't really care for this movie.
I give it like is it better than Endgame? I would say it's right around there. Probably about the same, 70.
What did we give? Hang on. What did we give Endgame? You said 70, right?
Yeah.
I
would give this a 68.
I probably would go Endgame over Far From Home. If we were comparing
I think I would go Far From Home over Endgame.
The only reason is because there are some absolute, like, as annoying as a lot of the stuff in Endgame is, there are also some absolutely great moments in that movie.
Yeah.
Like Captain America getting the hammer.
Oh, yeah, that's right. I think I'm being too harsh on Endgame because I just don't like the resolution to Thanos and all of that stuff. So, yeah, I could see that. I could see Endgame being better than Far From Home.
Yeah, if we're talking about the general direction and not how they could have done it better, I just don't care. Like Far From Home's sort of interstitial. It doesn't really matter. Like nothing the Spider-Man stuff matters all that much because eventually he's going back to Sony and this won't be a thing anymore.
Yeah.
But I just it's not a movie I really ever care to watch again, and so it definitely sits somewhere in maybe the 65, 70 for me. I think,
what do you think about?
90's way too high. That's that Marvel also Spider-Man bump.
Oh yeah.
Shang Chi, which I guess is the last one on this list.
Haven't seen it yet.
I haven't seen it yet.
Everything we've seen and heard about it.
Yeah. I pretty much know everything that happens in this.
Me too. 5.5.
I would say 92 is way too high. Listen,
60?
92, like this movie is basically the equivalent to some degree of Black Panther, but it didn't hit quite as hard. There's no way that Shang-Chi is higher than Spider-Man, is higher than Infinity War, is nearly higher than Guardians, I think. Guardians is a 92. No, it's same as Guardians. No way.
It's better than Winter Soldier.
Yeah, even without seeing it, there is no possible way that this movie is better, from a even from a Rotten Tomato score at that number, right? Like just going based on the numbers. No way.
So all this makes it surprising that the critics panned Eternals as much as they did.
Yes, because it's not getting any like Marvel love. It is the most intersectional of any of the movies that they've done, right? More so than Black Panther, more so than Shang Chi. It has this like you can go and watch the interviews from the premiere of all the stars, and it's nothing but them going like, "This is brave and it's gonna save lives of people, and we're just so happen to have representation in and that I can now see someone who is a superhero who represents me." Physically, sexually, that's it.
Yeah.
And it's just like, there's no, and this is the thing, is that there's no way to have discussions with any of these, with people who are like, especially, I just call them Marvel stans because I don't know what else to really call them. You mentioned any criticism of the movies that we were critical of, so Captain Marvel in particular, Black Panther, Shang-Chi, and they'll go, you just don't like those movies because they don't have white main characters. I'm like, that is a dumb argument. That's a non-argument. You're not making an argument. What you're saying is that because of the color of someone's skin, I don't like the movie. It's like, did you ever consider that these stories are not as good as you think that they are?
Yeah.